Not long ago, I watched the 2023 drama film Past Lives. I thought it was an amazing film, with sublime writing and direction from Celine Song, and performances from Greta Lee and Tae Yu. It showcased a really interesting and poignant conflict in Nora's longtime friendship with Hae Sung, and the representation of her youth, and her husband Arthur's representation of the life path she chose, with the film exploring the interesting concept of how people wonder what could happen if they chose a different path in life. The reason I bring this up is because the film only got 2 Academy Award nominations, Best Picture and Best Original Screenplay. And hardly anyone is talking about this. But everyone is talking about 2 specific women not being nominated in 2 specific categories. And I'm going to look at this situation and throw my own hat into the ring about what areas I believe to be valid and what not to be valid.
Oh, they got this all screwed up.
So, the 96th Academy Award nominations came out on the 23rd of January, and in the hours succeeding the announcement, people took to social media to express their thoughts. But the topic that broke the internet was regarding Barbie's nominations. As expected, Ryan Gosling was nominated for Best Supporting Actor for playing Ken. Margot Robbie, however, was not nominated for Best Actress. But do you want to know the funny part? People claimed that Ryan Gosling was nominated at the Oscars, but not Margot Robbie or Greta Gerwig, and called this ironic given that the film is about abolishing the patriarchy. So, does this claim have any weight? It is true that Margot Robbie was not nominated for Best Actress, and Greta Gerwig for Best Director. Saying they should have been nominated in these categories is one thing. To say that they received no nominations is simply not true, however. Robbie was nominated for Best Picture as one of the producers, while Gerwig was nominated for Best Adapted Screenplay, something that most people seem to ignore, either because they don't care enough to read into it, or because they don't regard being a producer or a screenwriter as proper careers, whichever the case is really dismissive, honestly. The one that makes even less sense to criticise, however, is Margot Robbie's snub as quote-unquote sexist. And there are many reasons for this. First of all, she wasn't snubbed in favour of Ryan Gosling. They competed in different categories, him in Best Supporting Actor and her in Best Actress. Secondly, she was snubbed for Best Actress, a category for which men cannot be nominated. And frankly, some of the responses have been quite belittling. In particular, these ones from Mary McNamara. If only Barbie had done a little time as a sex worker, or barely survived becoming the next victim in a mass murder plot, or stood accused of shoving Ken out the dream house's top window. These are all references to the characters the Best Actress nominees played, and not only is this disrespectful to the nominees, but considering that the middle one is a reference to Lily Gladstone's role in Killers of the Flower Moon, in which they played real-life Osage woman Molly Kyle, who survived the Osage Indian murders, it comes off as disrespectful not just to the victims, but also the survivors. Apparently no one in the Academy was actually listening when Ferrera's Gloria delivered her now famous monologue about why it feels impossible to be a woman. I mean, that's a bold claim given that they did nominate America Ferrera for Best Supporting Actress for that monologue. Gerwig was nominated, alongside her husband Noah Baumbach, for Adapted Screenplay, but the irony of her being snubbed again for directing the film that featured that scene is breathtaking. I agree that Gerwig should have been nominated for Best Director, and it is good that McNamara acknowledged her screenplay nomination, but she would also be more likely to get that one, given that there are 2 screenplay categories and only 1 directing category. But on the topic of Lily Gladstone and America Ferrera being overshadowed, so while everyone is talking about Robbie's snub for Best Actress and Gerwig's snub for Best Director, there are various achievements, including milestones, and snubs that are being overshadowed in favour of these. The main one, and one of the only 2 that are getting some recognition, is Lily Gladstone's nomination for Best Actress for Killers of the Flower Moon, making them not only the first Native American to be nominated for the award, but also the first out non-binary person to be nominated for an Oscar in any category. While there have been non-binary Oscar winners and nominees in the past, including Sam Smith and Elliot Page, they were not out as non-binary at the time of their nominations. Lily Gladstone, however, was. This means that for the first time in history, the Academy have knowingly nominated a non-binary person, and as a non-binary person myself, I see this as a win. However, there is an area in this situation that I feel I need to address, and I will come back to this later. As mentioned earlier, Latino actress America Ferrera was nominated for Best Supporting Actress for Barbie, which has been similarly overshadowed, and very few people have called attention to her achievement. And then there's the other 5 actors of colour who have been recognised: Danielle Brooks in The Colour Purple, Sterling K. Brown and Jeffrey Wright in American Fiction, Coleman Domingo in Rustin, who was also out as gay, and Davine Joy Randolph in The Holdovers. But again, these nominations have been overshadowed by 2 white women not being nominated in 2 specific categories. And then there's the film Past Lives, which hardly anyone is talking about. It received nominations for Best Picture and Best Original Screenplay, and nothing else. So while Celine's song was nominated for Best Original Screenplay, much like Greta Gerwig, she received no other nominations. And leading actors Greta Lee and Taylor Yu were not nominated at all, but hardly anyone is saying that they were snubbed. Greta Gerwig and Margot Robbie miss out on Best Director and Best Actress, and people claim they got no nominations whatsoever, while Greta Lee and Taylor Yu do get no nominations whatsoever, and no one bats an eye. There seems to be a pattern here, doesn't there? Categories being dominated by white people has been an issue since the beginning of the Oscars. At the 87th and 88th ceremonies, every acting nominee was white. And while criticising this is valid, it comes off as hypocritical to then overshadow the nominations of actors of colour in favour of complaining about one white actress not getting one. There is a flip side to some of this, however, and some of this stems from a lack of diversity in not just award shows, but also the film industry in general, and this leads to the last part of the video. While I have been addressing my frustration with how people have complained about a white woman not being nominated in a category for which men cannot be nominated, I want to clarify that this video is not made to undermine the talent of white women, or white people in general. Mainly because I think that's a bit of a shitty thing to do, but also because it's not the solution to one of the main problems that the film industry in general is facing at the moment. While it is ridiculous to claim that Greta Gerwig got no nominations for Barbie, it is valid to be upset about her not being nominated for Best Director. Ever since the start of the Academy Awards, the Best Director category, along with most non-gender categories, has been dominated by men. And the number of times a woman has been nominated for Best Director in the category's history currently sits at just 9. With 2 nominations for Jane Campion, and 1 each for Lena Wertmuller, Sofia Coppola, Catherine Bigelow, Greta Gerwig, Chloe Zhao, Emerald Fennell, and Justine Triet, whose nomination this year has also been overshadowed by the outrage of Greta Gerwig's Best Director snub. Of these 9 nominations, Catherine Bigelow, Chloe Zhao, and Jane Campion have each won once. Coming back to Lily Gladstone's nomination, while an out non-binary person getting an Oscar nomination for the first time is a win, the Best Actress category isn't the best one for them to be nominated in. There's been a wide discussion about whether gendered acting categories should be abolished, and as a non-binary person, it's one where I can understand both sides of the argument. On one hand, gender-neutral categories are good for allowing non-binary actors to be recognised for their acting talents without being misgendered. On the other hand, as mentioned previously, most non-gender categories are dominated by men, which would likely end up being the case if the acting categories were merged into one. I think the solution to this problem would be to keep the gender categories and introduce a new category, or categories, for non-binary actors, thus allowing non-binary actors to get recognised without being misgendered, and actresses to get recognition without fear of being outnumbered by male actors. And while the Academy, and most award shows, have been pretty bad at diverse representation, I don't just think they're to blame for the lack of recognitions for films made by women, people of colour, and LGBTQ+ people. Much of the problem is the film industry not giving these people enough work. For all the talent of a lot of straight white men out there, and a fair number of them using their privilege to give these people opportunities, they are much more hired. And, much like what happens at the end of Barbie, I think the playing field needs to be levelled, to allow everyone the same opportunities, regardless of gender, ethnicity, or sexuality. But also in some cases, allow certain groups of people to tell their own stories, which can not only open the doors for them more, but also allow a story to be told from a more informed point of view. Tom Ford's fantastic insight into how difficult being gay was, and still is, in A Single Man. Jordan Peele's amazing satire of racism in Get Out, and Patricia Cardozo's phenomenal message of encouraging women to love their bodies and real women have curves. While the industry is making small steps in becoming more diverse, we are not at the point of it being fully diverse yet, and as such, shining a light on the work of minority groups and showcasing their talent is important, as this will hopefully help to level the playing field and thus allow equal opportunities for everyone.